new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
The punchline hit its mark perfectly, and the room erupted in laughter, but Greg Gutfeld wasn't content to just crack a joke. He seized the moment to shine a spotlight on what he saw as blatant hypocrisy. For years, Sunny Hostin has been vocal about holding others accountable for their ancestral histories, often framing her arguments around systemic oppression and the weight of historical responsibility. But when faced with revelations about her own family's troubling past, she seemed to brush it off with a casual shrug, dismissing it as just a fact of life. Gutfeld didn't let that slip unnoticed. He pointed out how moments like this expose the dangers of identity politics, especially when the narrative someone pushes doesn't align with their own reality. He argued that Sunny's moral high ground had just taken a nosedive and stressed the need for self-awareness and nuance when navigating complex topics like race and history.
Funny, she's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
By reducing complex issues to identity-based talking points, Gutfeld explained, activists like Sunny often overlook inconvenient details, including their own contradictions. The real irony, he said, wasn't just that Sunny's ancestors were involved in a system she actively opposes, but that she didn't take the opportunity to reflect on it. Instead, she downplayed its significance, refusing to acknowledge the glaring contradiction in her own stance. His commentary resonated deeply with many, offering a prime example of what happens when moral superiority clashes with uncomfortable truths. For Gutfeld, this wasn't just about Sunny, it was a larger lesson about how personal accountability often takes a backseat to performative outrage. The internet wasted no time reacting, with social media exploding in memes and sharp humor, including one viral post saying, "Reparations. Let me write that check to myself real quick." On Twitter and TikTok, users flocked to voice strong opinions, some defending Sunny by saying she shouldn't be blamed for her ancestors' actions, while others pointed out her glaring double standard.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now why I'm so stupid and fat.
This ignited a heated debate. Should public figures like Sunny be held to the same moral standards they demand from others? Critics argued her response lacked the necessary reflection and growth that should come with such a high-profile platform. Meanwhile, Sunny's dismissive reaction to her family's past shifted the conversation from potential self-reflection to accusations of hypocrisy. Instead of addressing the complexities of ancestry and accountability, the focus turned to her failure to confront her own history, making it just another debate on who's truly morally accountable. Then came the awkward fallout on The View. The moment the news broke about her ancestors being slave owners, the lively atmosphere at the table vanished, leaving a tense silence. Even Whoopi Goldberg, known for her quick comebacks, seemed unsure how to handle such an ironic revelation. On Gutfeld's show, however, the atmosphere was completely different. His co-hosts didn't hold back, throwing in sharp jabs and playful barbs. One even quipped that Sunny might need to start shaming herself for her family's past. Their laughter served as a sharp critique, further exposing the cracks in Sunny's moral foundation. Even Rosie O'Donnell weighed in, offering a more thoughtful take on the situation.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my God.
Shame.
Oh my God.
The horror. History, and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving.
She emphasized that people should be judged by their actions, not their ancestry, and cautioned against oversimplifying complex issues like race and history. Her perspective underscored how such revelations can challenge rigid narratives and lead to uncomfortable but necessary self-reflection. The reactions to Sunny's response highlighted a sharp divide. Some saw it as an opportunity for personal accountability, while others felt it was another example of identity politics backfiring. Regardless of where people stood, the tension surrounding her response was undeniable. What could have been a moment of growth for Sunny instead became a debate about her perceived hypocrisy and unwillingness to confront her own past. This story is a reminder that no one's history is without complexity. It raises a crucial question. If you demand accountability from others, shouldn't you hold yourself to the same standard? Whether Sunny chooses to face the issue head-on or ignore it entirely, how she handles this moment will shape her legacy.
Search out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah,
it's nothing.
Meanwhile, Sunny's personal life took another turn into controversy. This time, the spotlight shifted to her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, who's caught up in a massive legal storm. The allegations, insurance fraud, legal kickbacks, and a staggering 180 defendant RICO lawsuit. This isn't your average legal spat. This is a high-stakes scandal unfolding with the potential to shake the medical world to its core. At the heart of the lawsuit is a scheme allegedly orchestrated by Dr. Hostin and others, exploiting the healthcare system for profit. The accusations: accepting bribes to perform unnecessary surgeries and submit fraudulent insurance claims for procedures that may not have even taken place. Imagine patients undergoing anesthesia for operations they didn't need, while insurance companies unknowingly footed the bill. If these allegations are true, this could become one of the most shocking medical scandals in recent history.
Citizen that has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation?
They have.
And that's
But Dr. Hostin's lawyer, Daniel Thwaites, has fired back, calling the lawsuit baseless and accusing the insurance company of using it as a smokescreen to cover up their own financial problems. The battle has only escalated, but what really makes this story explosive is how it ties directly to Sunny, who, as it turns out, might have been fully aware of her husband's questionable dealings. Enter Joe Rogan. The podcast mogul wasted no time calling out the hypocrisy he saw in The View. He pointed out that while Sunny often criticized others for their medical advice, she never acknowledged the possibility that she might have known about her husband's alleged illegal activities. Rogan's comments only fueled the fire, casting a shadow on Sunny's credibility as she's now caught in the crossfire of her own public persona and her husband's legal entanglements. This is no longer just about the lawsuit, it's about the truth behind public figures and their carefully crafted images. The layers of drama keep unfolding, and whether Sunny addresses it or stays silent will determine how the public views her in the long run. From one controversy to another, this time it wasn't The View or a political debate. It was Carrie Underwood's decision to perform at the presidential inauguration.
Understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon.
The country music superstar, widely adored for her pure talent and lack of drama, was suddenly thrust into the crosshairs of cancel culture. What was supposed to be a moment of pride, a chance to celebrate her country, turned into a storm of backlash. Critics were quick to label her a supporter of a convicted felon just for agreeing to perform. But here's the twist. It wasn't about her performance. It was about what the performance symbolized for people who couldn't separate their political biases from their admiration for her as an artist.
Country superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here. What do y'all think?
I personally hope we're moving beyond the era of politics where we want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows.
Right.
But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning, so she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it. So I get why she did it.
Despite the backlash, Carrie didn't back down. Instead, she stood strong, earning respect from a new wave of supporters who admired her courage to stand by her decision. In contrast, some of her fellow country music stars stayed silent, fearing backlash or losing endorsement deals. Not Carrie, she stood tall. The View didn't waste any time getting in on the action, accusing Carrie of normalizing a convicted felon just for singing America the Beautiful. Yet as of now, no felony conviction exists, only outrage. The hypocritical tone from some in the media was impossible to ignore, especially when it was clear that Carrie's choice was a simple act of patriotism. Carrie's story is a textbook example of how cancel culture often becomes a game of hypocrisy. In the end, the outrage faded, but Carrie's career still going strong. Her albums keep topping the charts, and her concerts are packed. While the critics moved on to the next target, Carrie remained steadfast, showing that no matter the backlash, staying true to yourself can lead to a long-lasting legacy.